Esports, just like regular sports, includes a wide and ever-growing array of activities, or in this instance, games. From fighting to racing games, different genres require different skills and strategies to be utilised in order for the player to achieve success. In this video, I will break down 3 different genres and give an example of a game belonging to each one, highlighting the skills, tactics, and general game knowledge used in each. Section 1. Battle Royale. Battle Royale as a concept involves an individual or small group of players fighting against other teams in a large map, scavenging weapons and items along the way. Ultimately, you must be the last team standing to win, however this does not mean that you are forced to kill everyone you encounter. A common factor in Battle Royale games is the concept of an enclosing play area, with anyone caught outside of it taking damage. This forces players to move closer together over time, making it so that players must interact at some point. The game I have chosen to represent this genre is Fortnite, arguably not only the most popular game within this genre, but also one of the most popular games of the last 3 to 4 years. Fortnite's Battle Royale mode is so popular in fact, that it has been the subject of many esports tournaments around the world. At surface level, Fortnite is just another Battle Royale. However, what sets it apart from its contenders is the game's unique building mechanic. A feature originally developed with the intention of base building and horde survival, the building mechanic dons a far more combat-oriented role in Battle Royale, be it ramp rushing an enemy or defensively boxing yourself in. Of course, building on its own isn't overly complex, and that's where editing comes in. Players are able to edit the build pieces they have placed to better suit their needs. For example, you can edit a wall to include a window or door, or a floor to have a hole in it. Being able to edit in a fight effectively and quickly is half of the battle won. However, the ability to edit creates something new for players to consider. Seeing as the ability to edit a build is so important, players vie for control over a build's edits. In box fights, players fight for control of builds by destroying the opponents and quickly replacing them with their own, allowing them to decide what edit is made and when. Combine this with some quick reaction times and good headshot accuracy, then Bob's your uncle. As I mentioned earlier, being well versed in building and editing is essentially half of the fight won. But what about the other half? Well, a player's ability to crank 90s is superseded by their aim, as this is still, without a doubt, the most decisive factor in a fight. If you've got good crosshair placement and a solid gun, you can at times make up for a lack of building prowess. In Fortnite, gunfights are usually won by whoever has better tracking, rather than click timing like in other games. An assault rifle and a shotgun should always be in your loadout when possible, and if you want to bring something like a sniper rifle or grenade launcher, you'll want to sacrifice a different inventory slot. Speaking of inventory management is important in all Battle Royale games, and Fortnite is no exception. A typical loadout consists of 2 or 3 weapons, 1 or 2 healing items, and, if you have room, a utility or miscellaneous item. You should also consider the arrangement of your inventory as well, so that you can switch to relevant items on the fly. As for tactics and strategies, to put it simply, there's 2 main ways to play. Offensively, you go on the attack, get good loot early, and keep other teams on the defense. Or, defensively, you don't draw attention, you don't waste resources, and you pick off easy kills from afar. Another tactic is to watch other people's fights and wait for one team to win. Then, when the fight's over, go in and clean up. That way, you can get 2 teams' worth of loot, while only having to fight 1. Skills such as building, editing, and gunplay can all be improved on in the game's creative mode, where players can create their own maps and scenarios. Box fights are a great way to combine editing with gunplay. As for strategy and tactics, these can be tried and tested in regular Battle Royale matches. Section 2. Fighting games. Fighting games are a rather unique genre, despite what the name implies. Fighting games involve combat between 2 or more fighters, using mechanics such as blocking, counter-attacking, grappling, and chaining attacks or performing combos. The game I have chosen to represent this genre is Mortal Kombat 11. Mortal Kombat is one of the most popular fighting game franchises, alongside Street Fighter and Smash Bros, and the franchise has had popular releases across various platforms for the last 29 years. While the game has received a lot of backlash for its graphic nature, it has stood the test of time, garnering not only a massive following, but also a scene in competitive gaming. Mortal Kombat features 3 main things that players must keep track of: health, stamina, and super meter. Health does not regenerate, it must be preserved at all costs. While each character has the same amount of health, you must remember that different characters all deal different amounts of damage with their basic attacks as well as with abilities and combos. Stamina is used to perform certain actions such as dashing and interacting with the environment, and does regenerate over time. Players must be wary of how much stamina they have so that they are able to do certain moves when necessary. The super meter is used to perform special moves, and fills up when you take damage, when an attack is blocked, or when you perform a special move. It can be used to perform enhanced versions of attacks, breakers, block breakers, and X-rays. X-rays are incredibly powerful attacks that require a fully charged super meter to use. Each character's X-ray is different, and deal slightly varying amounts of damage, but typically deal about 30% damage to the opponent's health bar. While they are extremely powerful, they are also extremely risky, as they can be blocked and will still use your super meter's charge regardless. To truly excel at Mortal Kombat's, well, combat, you need to know your character's moves and combos like the back of your hand. If you don't, even button mashing won't save you. Speaking of button mashing, it's important not to spam the same attack repeatedly, as not only is it considered bad manners, but it also rewards the victim with an automatic breaker, usually resulting in you receiving more damage than you dealt. While Mortal Kombat is infamous for its over-the-top fatalities, lesser known is its counterpart, the brutality. While fatalities are delivered after someone has already won, brutalities are directly linked to winning a match. They are performed only under certain circumstances, but can instantly kill your opponent. To perform one, you must have already won one round, your opponent must be on or below a certain amount of health, and you must use a specific move as the last hit. Brutalities are highly underrated and underutilized, and while they may not be as satisfying as the more exaggerated finishers, they'll definitely get the job done. Ultimately, however, being unpredictable, as well as being able to respond quickly to enemy attacks, are just as important as technical ability. These skills can all be practiced in the game's offline modes, where you can battle against an AI opponent or practice moves and combos on an immobile, invincible AI.
French. Sub-Zero wins.
Section 3. First-person shooters. First-person shooters are, well, you know what they are. You get a gun, you point it at someone, someone dies, repeat. Despite that though, it's honestly quite a varied genre. From Counter-Strike to Overwatch, even down to Call of Duty, there's a little bit of something for everyone, and it's no surprise why FPS games have had such a strong grip on the gaming scene for so long. Though with a seeming lack of innovation with games like Call of Duty as of late, maybe that grip will begin to slip, at least in the mainstream market. So, that's why for my final game, I chose something that is very much not mainstream. Cue Insurgency Sandstorm. I love Insurgency Sandstorm, and have done since it released in 2018. It is the perfect blend of hardcore shooters like Escape from Tarkov and Counter-Strike, with the accessibility of more arcadey games like Call of Duty. Make no mistake, this is not Call of Duty, and this is not your grandfather's first-person shooter. Pistols can be one-shot kills to the body, shotguns can kill people that are further than 3 feet in front of you, and frag grenades actually fragment. Due to Sandstorm's more niche following, it hasn't developed a competitive scene. Yet, though there is definitely scope for it to do so in the future. So, if it's not Call of Duty, what is it? Sandstorm is a hardcore first-person shooter with realistic weapon handling and ballistics, and has a heavy emphasis on team play and coordination. Large teams of up to 14 players go head-to-head in varying game modes, and must coordinate to successfully attack or defend objectives, and this largely owes to the game's class system. There are 8 playable classes in Insurgency Sandstorm, each with specific roles to play. Rifleman, Breacher, Advisor, Demolitions, Marksman, Gunner, Observer, and Commander. Now, why are Commanders and Observers so important? Well, Commanders are able to call in fire support, however to do so they must be within a certain distance from an Observer. Fire support, much like an ultimate ability in games like Overwatch and Valorant, can change the course of a round. Be it an attack helicopter or deployment of lethal gas, they can be used to halt or slow enemy pushes. For example, gas limits your view and is incredibly lethal, and can only be deployed by the insurgent team. Often, security team players will forego equipping a gas mask as part of their loadout, as it costs an extra supply point, whereas insurgents can equip it for free. This makes it excellent for clearing out or holding objectives when on the insurgent team, as you can catch the other team off guard. In addition to fire support, gun trucks will spawn after certain waves in some modes. Gun trucks are highly armoured vehicles with bulletproof windows and a powerful armour-plated machine gun on the back. The only real way to take it down is with an RPG or by headshotting the gunner, which can be a challenge. Gun trucks give riflemen a lot of power to hold whole lanes of the map and don't require putting more specialised roles at risk. Additionally, gun trucks can be commandeered by the enemy, however this is no small feat. Of course, you can't solely rely on fire support to get the job done, you also need to be a good shot. As a more realistic and hardcore FPS, weapons have an amount of recoil based on the round they fire, as well as the weight of the weapon. This means that in full auto, lighter weapons like ARs or SMGs can have severe recoil, whilst LMGs have almost none, especially when used with a bipod. Weapon stopping power and penetration is also decided by the weapon's caliber, meaning that weapons that fire the same ammo deal the same damage. This creates an interesting balance between volume of fire and accuracy, as while an LMG can kill with 1 or 2 shots, they are rather inaccurate and fired from a non-mounted position. However, semi-automatic weapons may not have the volume of fire needed for facing opponents wearing body armour, especially if their ammo does not have very high penetration. Speaking of ammo, it is often in short supply, so players will need to keep it topped up by scavenging from dead players. In a fight, players must also have a great deal of spatial awareness to make sure that their flank is covered, as well as making sure that they minimise their exposure by using the game's lean mechanic. Grenades are also very viable when dealing with enemies in an enclosed space, such as a building or alleyway, and can be equipped by all classes. Flashbangs are cheap and good for room clearing, whilst also minimising friendly fire. Frag grenades are more expensive, but are devastatingly powerful indoors. Smokes are great for providing visual cover during a push on open maps or on roads, and Molotovs can be used to cut off choke points, though can also be used to destroy enemy objectives in applicable modes. Creating a balanced loadout that plays to your role is also key. For example, demolitions should invest most of their supply points into explosive weapons, as even if they die, our team can pick up the equipment and benefit from it. More generally, it is important that you do not overbear yourself, as you will be slower moving and be able to sprint for shorter periods of time if you are overweighted. However, making sure to bring enough ammo and some body armour is also important. This creates an interesting economy system, where sometimes it is better not to cash out, as just because you have the supply points, it doesn't mean you have to spend them. Skills such as recoil control and balanced loadout creation can be practiced in the game's practice range, where you can spawn in AI combatants, as well as try out all the game's weapons and fire support options. Strategies and tactics, meanwhile, can be picked up from playing with and against other players,